So you have your décolleté, right? Deltoid, trapezius, scalenes, you have cervical vertebrae. Back here. We'll be working on trapezius.
So easier if this is.
No, this is fine.
Okay.
You'll be working on pec major. It's actually pretty thin, so
Okay.
we'll be working on pec major. And then we'll be working on scalenes. We're actually going to get close in here, lower mandible, all this. We'll do all this. And again, you always want to check in with your client. And this is kind of the explanatory. You go through and you say, oh, we'll be working on here, we'll be working here. That way they have an idea. They know, okay, well, this is what we'll work on. I like to have my hand here, not too far from the table. You think, if you think about where their head is in relation to the table, it's actually very close. But your hand is, just there. That way they, I don't know what it is, but some people like that. Some people feel like, oh, okay, cool, I'll relax. You have my head. I'm not gonna, I don't have to use it. I don't have to use my neck. I don't got to do nothing. That way you can actually, bring your head around. You then are in control of where the neck is, the muscles are. And that'll actually it'll actually bring some of the work to where you want it to. You can get in here a little bit easier when the neck is like this, and we'll do that in a bit. I'll show you that. So first and foremost, you always want to do delts. Well, assuming that we've already done the back, shoulders, rhomboids, and lats, right? Assuming that we've already done this, you flip them over, they're face up now. So then you'd want to do deltoid and get in here. I should go ahead and back there. So arm work is very, very simple. Bicep, tricep. You want to get in here, deltoid. You always want to go down or up to down. Obviously, circulation wise, you want to go towards the heart, right? But when you're working, you can use whatever pressure they prefer. And I like to work from shoulder down. And then when I finish, when I close, then I can come back up, towards the heart. I can do bicep if I want, and then you always got to get make sure you get into the attachments. Make sure these are not tight. Bicep attachments sometimes can affect the neck. Yeah, feel a little bit in there as well. Feeling where some of the tension is 90% of it. As long as you can feel it, then you know that it needs to be worked on. If you don't feel anything, then you can just kind of move on. I mean, yeah, work it, but don't spend a whole lot of time doing it, because your main focus is here. Most clients, again, they don't care. They want you to work the area, but you got to do some of the little stuff in order to get the bigger problem. I see right in here. Yeah, it's pretty.
Yeah, a little messy.
When's the last time you did upper body?
Getting a massage?
No, working out.
It's been a while actually since I hurt my shoulder. I haven't really.
You haven't done upper body.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So that's another good base too. Depending on how much people work out, if they do, if they're like extreme, or even if they're light, you always ask them, when was the last time you did upper body workout? It gives you a good base as well. Because then that way I'm feeling the difference between all natural and, okay, it's going to take a little bit more, it's going to take a little bit more of my feelers to really know, what's the difference between post-workout and, just kind of muscle tension. Something that needs to be broken up, or, is it just post-workout? And there is a huge difference between people who are just post-workout and people who haven't worked out in 2 weeks.
Mm.
You sometimes it's a week and a half, depending on who it is, how much water they drink, all that. But I always go with like a week. You know, if they say, oh, 2 to 3 days, might be a little bit. After a week, they're like all natural. They're good to go. So like in here, she's got some stuff in here. Underside is important, you know, because you have your lats, right?
Yeah, you did some work in there, man.
Yeah,
That was great. It was painful.
yeah. You have some, you know, you have your lats here. You know, your lats obviously run into your arm. You know, this is another huge area to work on. You know, you can do your stretches if you want, even if it's just something as simple as, you know, holding down your lats, kind of just bringing it out. I usually stand up when I do this. You know, you get in here. You can do a few arm pulls if you want. You know, get into this realm. You can come underneath the shoulder. I think I did this on YouTube. I come underneath the shoulder blade, pull out. I've done that. And then you go back to, you know, deltoid, tricep. Make sure everything, you know, back here is kosher. And if you have to, there are some instances where you will have to get in your forearms. But at that point, I think it's more of a relaxing thing. Some people, you know, hold a lot of tension in their hands and feet. So it kind of becomes this, you know, I really like my hands being worked on. But unless they specify, I try not to do forearms when it comes to neck-related injuries. I mean, I will every now and again, but it's very rare. Very rare. It just depends on the person. Some people like it, you know, so much in fact that, you know, everything just kind of. That's more of a, it's more of a preference than anything else. So after doing arm work, you're probably going to spend about, I don't know, maybe 10 minutes. Maybe about 5 to 6 minutes per arm, per upper arm. If you're doing the whole arm, it's about 10. So then you would get into pec major. I work from sternum out. So you just kind of want to do your point work. You don't want to go down too far. Obviously, breast tissue, a little bit more sensitive. You don't want to put the client, you don't want to make the client, anything in terms of here, right? You got to think of how they're going to be clenching, right? Because of too much pain. Breast tissue obviously is very sensitive. I always do 2 fingers. If you know, anything beyond that, pointless. There's no reason to be using more than 2 fingers. I spend about maybe a couple minutes at most. I mean, it doesn't take much. Unless there's some sort of injury there, nobody should have more attention than a couple of minutes. There's just no way. No way. The idea behind the work when it comes to breast augmentation, it's finicky because it sometimes it can go either way. You know, if the muscles are not, you know, obviously trauma, right? Getting the idea
like
of trauma,
scar tissue and stuff.
Scar tissue. You know, it's a different realm when there's a breast aug involved. I've worked on some women where it's a little bit lower. It's on their side near the ribs. They have a lot of issues. It's their ribs down here that have some issues, but it's more pain here, and they kind of feel it in the neck, but they don't feel it anywhere up here. It's more here near the clavicle. They feel like some sort of tightness in here, which I'll get into. So you work on pec major all the way down to the attachments. You want to make sure that you get in here, but not too much. It can get a little sensitive here. If you feel like you have to work on pec major more, you can always bring the arm up. It's just an easier way to get inside pec major. That's all it is, really. I don't usually do this from this angle. It's usually a different one. I usually come out to the side about where you're sitting, and then I have the arm like this, and I work like this. So it's a little bit different. I don't know too many therapists that do this. And they'll work in here, and I usually go down and I pull away, or push into. So I go like this, and I'll do that. And it's usually the girdle, right? You always think about the girdle that's involved.
Yeah.
And then you get into scalenes. So scalenes, which I'm going to take a little bit more time here with. You can do trapezius inward. You can do that. Or you can do from, I forget the muscle name. You can go from, I think it's your innermost scalene, I guess, if you want to use that. But it's on the side of your throat. So if this being the center of your throat, right? It's on the side of your throat, and you can feel it. You can actually see it. See, so like this. Like, even though that's really close, right? Like, that's obviously very important. But because of that muscle being there, you got to think of where it's connected to, right? You got to think sternum, pec major. And that's why we work on those areas, because this sometimes is very important. So people will say, oh, it hurts to swallow. It doesn't feel good. It feels like there's some sort of something going on. Or they say, oh, my jaw, something's going on here. So obviously, you can see it if, a lot of that is up in here, muscles in your head, your jaw, back of your ear, your neck, anything in here. So let's say we were to work on trapezius first. I make sure that their head is supported on both arms. Obviously, it puts a little bit more work on the therapist, less work on the client. Then it just becomes all line of force. You're just working on trap all the way up. And sometimes I switch it up. I won't use my thumb, I'll use, like my middle finger or maybe my index finger. Try not to use more than 3. 3's like pushing it. 2's usually really good. Just want to make sure your fingers are braced. Don't ever do more pressure than you don't think you can handle. Some clients are brutal. They'll tell you, oh, more. You'll be like, well, I can't do more, man.
Oh my God.
Yeah. But, if they want more, then it goes into the realm. Like, my wife has used the elbow before, and she's had them face up just like this, and she's used the elbow here. Now, for me, I've done that before. It's not very, very good in terms of body mechanics. It's kind of contraindicated, really, because you can hurt yourself, and it's not helpful for you or the client. Not only is the risk higher for the client because it's your elbow, right? If they want more, then that's just obviously something that they're going to have to go to someone else for. If somebody is asking for that, you can always direct them towards me. But I would never do some more than the person's asked for. I haven't encountered somebody. The one time I have encountered somebody like that, she was like, oh, I want you to do more. I gave her more than she could possibly handle,
Mm-hmm.
and she wasn't too happy at the end of the massage.
Well,
All I
she
said
asked
was,
for it.
"You asked for it," and I think
Well, she could have spoke up too.
she tried to be a smartass, and I go, "Well, I don't think you can handle the most I can give you," because that's what she said at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
She goes, "I want you to give me the most pressure you could possibly give," and I said, "I don't think you can handle the most that I can give," and she goes, "Well, I bet you I can." Oh, is that right? And so we did the massage, and she took it like a champ, I'll give her that, but she was not happy. She walked away. She walked away with the pride. I'll give her that, but she was not cool. And I could tell she was just like, oh, she felt like she just got beat up. And I mean, I didn't feel bad because it's like, fuck, you asked for it.
Yeah.
Hey, don't mess around. Don't come in here saying,
Yeah.
I
would never tell you that. that was already intense.
Another thing I do for trapezius, which is sometimes nice, is just kind of a pull, a slight pull. There's not many areas that you can do this in, but like when you're talking about the cleft between the neck and the shoulder, you can kind of grab the muscle and kind of do a little bit of pulling. Even if it doesn't feel like you're doing anything, sometimes you are.
Yeah, it feels good.
But sometimes you feel like, it feels good. Some people like it just because it's different. And I'll get into the different feel in a minute. I'll try to get done here. But there's only like a very short area that you could do it in. I always start at the cleft. I like starting at the cleft. It's just a go-to area because you feel like you are manipulating something. So then I work outwards. I go from the cleft to the shoulder, and I just, I do little pulls. And obviously it gets a little harder to pull out here, but I just keep going with it. And it's just something to do, something different. The client doesn't feel like it's the same massage over and over again. And then I start to get in here, from the cleft upwards, but there's only so much area again. So I just do a little bit when it comes to this. I try not to do it when it comes to up here because the skin starts to get thin. The muscles start to get thin. So then you're just pulling on skin like this. It doesn't really feel good. Next thing you know, you're going to start pinching your client, and then you're going to go, I've had this done to me before, did not like it. So I don't ever really do it too much in here, but there is this little part right in here that you can do it to. You can do it right about in here. So always start here, and just move a little up. Only go to about maybe right there. Anything past that, you're just going to be pinching your client. There's no point. Then, of course, after the trapezius, you get into your scalenes. Now, obviously, every therapist should know that you have, 3 to a set. That's just how it is. And when you're dealing with the clavicle section, the clavicle section is really interesting. When I worked on Jen, the first time I worked on her, I think I started here. Outwards, right, Jen?
I don't remember.
Okay. So what I usually do is I'll come up and I'll bring her head up. Now, obviously, this looks very uncomfortable for any therapist because of your hand. Your hand is, right, your hand should be braced by the table, but I always have my leg here. So I'm not really holding her head, because if I was holding her head like this, I would get really tired really fast. But I always have her head to my elbow to my leg. You can change it up. You don't ever have to really do all that. I do it because, again, I'm putting a lot of stress on my body for the client. This is for the client. A lot of therapists would never probably do that. My teachers probably wouldn't tell you. The teachers that taught me would probably look at you crazy. If they were like, yeah, I do this, you're probably like, why? you're going up, why are you putting a stress on your body? Well, because, the client is paying for it. I like doing this because it gives me the ability to get into scalenes. When they're like this, your scalenes are stretched and they're taut. But when your head is like this, the world that is then available to you, just like this, just in this one motion, everything becomes a lot more pliable. Clients don't know that. I mean, yeah, they know it, but they don't really grasp the concept of the difference between if I was to do this, and if this shirt wasn't here, which is okay, you can leave it on, but you would be able to see it on the video. But if I can do this like this, but then have her head like this, and then just get into it a little bit differently, it's all the difference in the world, especially when it comes to up in here. So the further you go up, the farther you can go in. That's the concept that you want to achieve. So here, like I can already feel some of her muscles pushing me out. So when her neck's like this, you're that much closer in, and that's a big difference. To be that much farther in is everything when it comes to the neck, especially when you're pushing. And most therapists will probably, tell you, oh yeah, I've done that before. But see, I'm just lifting up her neck and just pushing in. Your arm would get tired, so I usually just have it like this. It takes a lot less stress off your forearm. Obviously you have to be, stationary. You can't be moving around. You can't be free willy-nilly. But the idea behind the clavicle work is that if you start here and then work up, everything should be relaxed when it comes to up in here. And the difference part that I was talking about, I'm gonna get into. So I do the first one. Go and relax. So I do the first one. I start here. Start at the clavicle. And then it's just simple just trigger point, nothing fancy. You take your time. You probably spend about, at most 10, maybe 15 seconds per point. Nothing fancy, and you just keep moving. You just work all the way up. See, like right here, just got a little bit in there. Anytime you find a knot or something you want to really work on, I usually switch up from one finger to two fingers. That way I don't lose it. That way it's, I have a brace because I'm obviously spending a little bit more time there now. You have one finger, no brace. 2 fingers, you have a little bit of a brace. You can rely on your other finger to kind of keep you stable. And then you just move all the way up. You keep it very simple. Your hand is still here. Some clients will kind of tense up. I always take my hand away. Tell them, go and relax. Go and relax, and then I go back. All right. Oh, go ahead and relax, and then like, no, your finger's still on my neck. I always kind of take it away. You don't ever want to tell somebody, oh, relax. Well, yeah, your finger's still, killing me here. Come on. It's like trying to. It's like you don't want to force it on them. You don't ever want to force it on it. And next, it's everything. You're breathing. It's a very sensitive area of the body. Got a lot of tension up in here. So after working, this one, you then move a little bit closer. Now the clavicle, again, the clavicle work, not to beat a dead horse, but the clavicle work, you can work any part of the clavicle and hit some very good points. You know, it's not just not the three muscles, you know, like the scalenes. It's not the three muscle system. You know, you're not, oh, you know, I found the muscle. Okay, you know, that must be where the point is. The clavicle, you can follow the clavicle the whole way. If you see like some of the muscle diagrams that we have in the room, you know, you can see that there's muscles that overlay, you know, the scalenes. There's muscles that obviously, you know, play a huge integral part to how your neck moves and, you know, how it feels, you know. So sometimes I like to just do the clavicle work all by itself and then do the neck work. You can do that too. But for the sake of, you know, the video, you know, we did this one, then we move up. You can do your thumb. You can, you know, do your finger. You know. But see, then it's the basic, you know, 3-point stance, you know, elbow to leg, hand to, you know, and I'm just, you know, the back of my hand is, you know, on her neck or on her head, you know, and I'm just, that's all it is. You know, sometimes I'll ask the client, oh, is pressure okay? Is that too much? You know, you know, I don't get into the, if you have to cough, let me know. I don't get into that realm yet. Usually most people don't have to cough. The number one thing I hear whenever I'm doing this work is, oh, I feel that down in my hand, or oh, I feel that like on my shoulder, and they'll feel it like on the backside, back down in here, like all down in here. And they'll go, oh yeah, I feel it in my shoulder, and that's subscap. That's why lats and doing that work is very important. Subscap, lats, a lot of that work is very important because it dictates the scalenes. I don't know why, I don't know how. There's something that activates back there. There's obviously some sort of attachments, or, you know, they correlate very well with each other. There's something that back there. You know, I'm not a you know, muscle expert or anything. I just know that there's something that happens whenever you do this work. They feel it in their shoulder. You know, and it's worked every time for me. Uncomfortable as hell, but sometimes it works.
Yeah.
You know, so you can do the whole clavicle if you want, which I've just done. You get into here, you know. So when you get in here, you obviously have to change it up. It's no longer, you know, this. You know, it starts to become a little bit iffy. You know, you may have to, you know, bring their head up. You may have to kind of fiddle around with it, see where it best works. I don't ever get into here doing this. You know, I kind of keep it. Anytime I'm in here, I kind of keep their head close to the table.
Okay.
You know, you don't
try not to sneeze.
Okay.
Nope, I think it's gone.
I don't ever go like this. You know, there's no reason to do this.
All right.
No reason to have their head like this. You know, doing the scaling work. That's like asking for it. That's like somebody saying, well, you know, it felt like you were choking me, and you would be like, well, I wasn't though. But you kind of were. You know, I mean, to have somebody's neck like this and have your hand like that, you know, that's like asking for it. You know. But, you know, the clavicle goes, you know, obviously goes all the way in here. So, you know, whenever you're doing that work, you know, you can come out here, you can come out here, just got to be a little bit more gentle. You know, you're switching up from like a medium to firm to like a light medium.
Okay.
You know, you just switch up your pressure just a little bit based upon, you know, she's got a little bit of tension in there. You know, and you can always switch it up, you know, middle finger to your index, you know, whatever works. I wouldn't use your ring or your pinky or anything. You know, you can use your thumb. I'm sure Jen can feel that, but she's got something in there. So, two things. So for Jen, I've already established that, you know, some of her tension is here. You know, she's also got a point somewhere along her clavicle that we sort of kind of broken up. And she's got some tension back in here. You know, right in here. So she hadn't even told me anything yet. You know, you can already feel, you know, she's got something here, something back here. that's the judge. You know, you can always judge. Okay, well, you know, that's pretty basic, right? I mean, the information just by feeling around. And I've only been working on it for the past 20 minutes, you know. And in an hour session, you know, finding that information out in 20 minutes is usually pretty nice, as long as you can find that out. So after working the clavicle, we've already worked trapezius, we've already worked one scalene, you know, then we move on. And we're back to trigger point. You know, if you want to go back to trigger point, that's fine. You then just move on to the next scaling. You know, her head's still turned a little bit. You know, she's probably like, damn, when's this guy gonna turn my head back? You know, and then it gets into the realm of, you know, if you want to take a breath, you know, if you want to take a breather, just let me know. Some people's necks, they don't like being in this position for a long time. Sometimes it's not muscle atrophy, but it kind of, you know, they have to, you know, they have to move, or, you know, something happens where they, you know, they just feel like they're not in control, or, you know, like my wife, you know, being the type A person she is, sometimes she just has to, you know, do this one time and then she goes back, you know. Some people feel it here. Their neck is turned so much that this starts to get tight, and you know, there's something about there that, you know, lymph node and all that jazz. There's something that sets that off. So you do your second scalene, you do your third scalene, trigger point again, you know, 10 to 15 seconds, you find a knot, maybe 20, 25, 30, you know, you follow that up. And then this is where you start getting into the realm of, you know, if you have to cough, let me know. You know, and then, you know, you can always reset, you know, pulling the head, or, you know, the skull. You know, then you go back. You know, you can always reset. You can always make sure somebody's comfortable. Because obviously this is, you know, this is where they're most comfortable, right? They're laying down, they're not using anything. And you go, okay, here we go, you know. It gives them a chance to kind of, you know, if you want to say, you know, take a deep breath in, try to, you know, whatever, then that's fine too. But, you know, then you start getting in here. Here is where it's most uncomfortable. Anything here. Anything in here, in terms of like throat and all that, super uncomfortable. I try to not spend a whole lot of time there. I will if I have to, but you know, in terms of the third scalene, you do your trigger point, you come up to about right here, and then you're usually pretty good. So you just do, you know, trigger point, trigger point, trigger point, trigger point. You do to about right there. You know, you then, you know, can either switch up your pressure. You know, you can, you know, go from light medium to maybe more of a basic light. But usually I save this for the craniosacral section. Anything this close, right, I save. So after doing the third scalene, then you start to get near your, I forget the muscle name, but, you know, this muscle that's really close to your throat. So right in here, which I did work on Jen the time that I seen her. So usually I'll have, you know, the person's neck, you know, straight up and down, no questions asked. You know, I gotta make sure, you always want to make sure you find the muscle first. This is the work where you always have to make sure. If you have to cough, let me know. If you have to take a breather, let me know. You know, and you know, even if they don't say it, and you can kind of see, you know, kind of. Some people will, you know, like squint their eyebrows, or they'll, you know, and then, you know, you back off. I mean, hell, you know, you're the one, you know, doing the massage, you're the one looking. You know, you have that tell. That's the one advantage we have, you know. I mean, yeah. You know, even if we're, you know, sitting here with our eyes closed, you know. And you always want to be careful. Actually, I think I did a little bit more pressure than what I'm doing now. This is about a good light to medium, maybe a medium. And I think when I first seen Jen, I think I might have been doing somewhere around, what, right around here?
Yeah, definitely something there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty good. It was good pressure. I needed it. Felt pretty heavy.
So then you want to make sure that, you know, whenever you're going bottom to up, I haven't heard of anybody going up to down. If there is somebody out there that does do that, or if they think that that's better, I'd like to hear why. But I would like to believe that it's down to up. If anybody else tells you otherwise, again, I'd like to hear it.
Okay.
I'd like to hear why.
Okay.
For sure. I can't see there being a better reason from going down to up. It gets the person prepared, I feel. That's just me. I don't know, maybe that's crazy, but I think it lets the person know their levels, you know. Then they have a, you know, an idea of what to expect. You know, like getting up in here, see she has something right in here. And these are the muscles you don't ever want to, I mean, you can do a little bit of cross friction. You don't ever want to slip. And if you're dealing with oil or lotion, you don't ever want to, you know, oh, sorry. No, there's no sorry when you're dealing with this. You just got to make sure you're on it. Stay on it, you know. And this is why, you know, she's straight up. You know, if she's like this, the possibility to slip is a little bit higher because, you know, her muscle is somewhat engaged. I don't like it like this. I guess you can do it that way, but I like it straight up and down. You know, it's a good base. You know, you're not struggling. You can keep your head on the table like this. You know, you can put your hand underneath. It doesn't matter at the end of the day. You go up to about here. She's got some tension up in there. Go up to about right here. I don't go up any higher than that. And then, you know, you can brush off, or maybe do some light, you know, massage when it comes to the shoulder. Maybe just kind of finish up. Maybe circulation wise, you know, bring it down, whatever you want to do. And then you get into craniosacral. You bring your neck to the side. Then you start getting into, you know, here, you know, and then that girdle we were talking about. You know, if you have her neck to the side, you can then get in here. Now, this is where I get into the difference between, you know, doing one thing and the other. Okay, the shoulder we were doing trigger point, and then we switched it up to a pull, a slight pull. Some people, and I've actually dealt with a few people, I myself have done this. Some people are so tight in here that when they get the work, you can do trigger point craniosacral and it feels really good. Some people, you pull away, like when you pull down, you can do this. You can get up in here and pull down, like just a slight pull down. And they're like, oh, that feels great. But I was doing this before, and they were like, that's not, it doesn't, like, it's not doing anything. I think the first time as a therapist I had noticed was about maybe 4 years ago. It was actually very recent, maybe 3 years ago. I was working on this client, and I was just pounding away. I was just going to town. I was doing this, just doing trigger point, getting a craniosacral, and I just could not get it to release. And I was like, what the hell is going on? You know, and she was just like, yeah, you know, this, that, and the other. Neck injury, this, you know, yada, yada, yada. You know, I'm having headaches all the time. And lo and behold, you know, I switched it up. And you know, all I did was I did this and I pulled down, and because everything was tight up here, you know, when it came up here, everything was so tight up here that once I dug my fingers in and then pulled down, all of a sudden I started everything to release. Everything was like all of a sudden releasing. I was like, holy shit! Like I didn't realize that pulling down was it. I thought everything was, you know, supposed to be done where it was, you know, just kind of trigger point, get in here, release the muscle. No. It almost felt like I was adding to it. You know, I was like pushing the muscle upwards and I was adding to it instead of, you know, going this and then just like pulling the muscle away, which was really weird. So that's why I say, you know, the difference between doing this and this is all difference in the world. If you do both, then that's fine. You know, do a little bit of trigger point, you know, all the way to the cervical. And then do this. You could do both. There's no rule in the book that says you can't do both. Even if it's, you know, doing this first and then the trigger point. There's no rule in the book that ever says you can't do both. That's just how it is. After the craniosacral, I like to do the cervical. Cervical is very simple. All it is your fingers are on the back. Her head's straight up and down. There's no difference. And then you just follow the cervical, you know, in between each facet, and you just, you know, you come back up and you maybe do circular motions. You could do, you know, you can do that again over here. I've done it where, you know, I had the neck like this, working on the left side. So my hand is underneath, and I'm still, you know, I'm still back here doing some sort of work. So like if her head was like this, I'm still back here doing some of the craniosacral, but it's just like this. It's just a different approach. You know, it gives the client a chance to have a different motion instead of being like this all, you know, the whole time. You know, you're still working on the same area. So then after doing that sort of work, you know, craniosacral, you can then, you know, do a little bit when it comes to the back of the ear. Back of the ear is always really nice. Some clients like this. You know, there's muscles back here. You know, there's nothing's too, you know, it does get a little sensitive when it comes to about right here again. You know, you can do jaw work. I like to do lower mandible, you know, anything in here. If I'm gonna do this, right, if you get into the realm of this again, you do, I usually go from chin. So chin, then I work down. One finger is usually recommended. 2 is appropriate. 3 is too much. You know, you're not hooking their jaw. You're not doing any sort of karate in here. You know, you just want to keep it very simple. I like doing this work. This is always interesting. I'm still learning what the best way to do this type of work, because this is very important. This, you know, controls our smile, it controls our swallowing. Like, it's just in a very important area, you know, in here. You know, there's a lot of muscles in here. So, you know, I've done it where I've had the person's neck like this, and I've worked on this. And it feels okay. It's not too bad, but being straight up down is nice too. It's very simple, very straightforward. You know, hands on one side of their neck. And I'm just, you know, doing a slight. You know, they can cough if they do cough. It's understandable. You know, I follow it all the way back, and I just do a little bit of this. Maybe some pulling. If they want scalp, they can do scalp. And that's it.